To start, jack up the car and install a jack stand. Remove the tire by removing the lug nuts with a breaker bar and 13mm socket. As you can see here, this tie rod is slightly bent and that's why it's being replaced. I recommend you spray this down with WD-40. I've already done that and it's been soaking for a while. With a 7/8 or 22mm wrench, break the gem nut or adjust the nut that holds the inner and outer tie rod together. Just loosen it a little bit, don't unthread it all the way. Next, with a T30 Torx Bit and a 15mm wrench, remove this nut. With the nut removed, just give it a little love tap. Next, count how many turns it takes to remove the outer tie rod. Write this number down somewhere because we will use this later to install the new tie rod. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Now remove the gem nut all the way off. Next, remove the dust boot from the inner tie rod. There are two clamps that holds it on, an inner clamp and an outer clamp. With a plier, remove the outer clamp first. To remove the inner clamp, use a screwdriver to pry it off. Once you remove it, this is what it looks like, and this is where I was kind of prying on it. I would not be reusing this clamp because I don't have the proper tool to install it. On the inner side of the dust boot, slide the boot from the inner tie rod. Use a screwdriver to lift the outer side of the boot off the tie rod. This dust boot probably never been removed, so it's not going to be easy coming off. If it's proving difficult to remove, apply some WD-40 to slide it off. It was definitely time to replace this. As you can see, it's really worn. It's not supposed to move like this. To remove the inner tie rod, I highly recommend a tool like this. You can rent one from your local auto parts store for free. There are definitely better versions out there than this one. When I was replacing the driver's side tie rod, it took quite some time to get this tool to properly work because the crow foot will not fit on right. It looks easy, but it can be really frustrating. Okay guys, there are multiple ways to use this tool. You can put the crow foot on the tie rod, then slide your tool over it, or set up the crow foot first on the tool, then slide it on the tie rod. Once you have everything set up, attach a breaker bar to the tool and break the tie rod loose. Remove the tool and thread the tie rod off by hand. Here's a closer view of how to set this thing up. This is the new tie rod. It's going to fit on the same way you took the old one off. Before installing the new tie rod, apply some anti-seize on the threads. Install until hand tightening. Install tool and torque to 65 foot-pounds. Once everything is torqued down, it's time to install the dust boot. This is the old clamp for the boot. I won't be reusing it. I found a new bend clamp I'll be using instead. If you're not able to find something like this, you can use zip ties. This is what it looks like when it's all installed. Next, install the outer clamp. Old auto tie rod versus new auto tie rod. They are slightly different. The old tie rod is sealed, it's not greasable. The new tie rod has a grease nipple or zerk fitting, which means it's greasable. Also, the old tie rod has a nylon self-locking nut, and the new one has a castle nut with a Cotter Pin hole. Before installing the tie rod, install the gem nut. Apply anti-seize. Install the tie rod. Use the same amount of turns that was used to remove it. Now snug the gem nut up to it. Tighten the gem nut with a wrench. Attach the tie rod to the front knuckle. Install the castle nut. With a 15mm socket and a ratchet, run the nut down. Then torque to 35 foot-pound. If the cotter pin holes does not line up with one of the slot on the nut, keep torquing the nut with the same torque until it lines up. Install the cotter pin. Tighten the gem nut one final time. I will normally torque this, but my torque wrench does not have enough clearance. With a grease gun, grease the other tie rod. In most greasing applications, you will grease until you see grease come out, but in this situation, grease until the tie rod grease boot is firm. Remove the grease gun from the zerk fitting. Install the tire. Install the lug nuts. Torque the lug nuts to 98 foot-pound. It's always good practice to torque when possible. Finally, remove the jack stand and lower the car safety. Thank you guys for watching. If this video was helpful, please give it a thumb up and hope to see you next time.